Hey everyone, yes I do mean you. It's me, Silver Daddy. Are you ready for another exciting adventure, aka trip or Trippin' with me? We're about to discover and share some amazing life stories. If I take a few sudden tangent turns along the way, don't worry, because I'll find our way back. Come on, climb aboard and buckle up because we are ready to start another great episode of
Trippin' with Silver Daddy.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Trippin' with Silver Daddy. I'm excited. We're going on a road trip. I love road trips. Road trips are so fun. So technically, a road trip is done in a car. It's where you go from point A to point B, but it's kind of a long distance. I'll tell you about my road trip we're going to go on in just a minute. But historically, did you know the very first road trip was in 1888 by Bertha Benz? You know, Carl's wife? She did the very first official road trip. It was an entire 66 miles. So Bertha took Carl's Benz car, and it was only the third one that was ever produced. You know, the Benz family has the first patent on a motorized vehicle. You know, today is Mercedes-Benz. So she took his prototype. It was only the third one ever made, and she decided that she was going to go visit her mother. That's what she said. It was 66 miles from her town in Germany to her mother's. Now, what's amazing is this car only went 6.2 miles per hour at its fastest speed. That means it took her at least 11 hours to drive to get there. But she was smart. She took her two teenager kids with her, two teenage boys. I guess they did most of the driving. But the hindsight of this was she actually also did this to promote her husband's car, because at the time it was only used in very short distance, and she took it on a long one without her husband's permission. He didn't even know she was taking his car. Can you imagine today? Your spouse just takes your car and leaves with your kids? It'd be like, yeah. No, but that's the very first road trip. Now in the United States, the first road trip was by two guys in 1903. One guy named Jackson and one guy named Crocker. And they decided they were going to drive from San Francisco to New York. And they also had a trusty sidekick. They took their dog with them. His name was Bud. I think it was the first Bud commercial and the first Bud dog. But they went, and it took them 63 days. 63 days to go from San Francisco to New York. And it cost them over $8,000. That's a lot of money back then. $8,000. Because I think it also paid for the car. And the car was a Winton touring car. Never heard of it. But that's what type of car it was. And they called the car Vermont for some reason. Like I call my car, my baby blue. But I think I'm going to call it now Bertha Blue after that. Hi, Mr. Squirrel. What are you doing by my camera? I have no food. Oh, these pesky animals. So his trip, that's 63 days and $8,000. The first female was Alice. And Alice, I can't remember her last name. She did this in 1906, a few years later. And she made it in 59 days. She beat the boys by 4 days. And she took 3 of her girlfriends with her. So not only was this the first female road trip, this probably was the first girls outing. Because you know they were having fun. But she made it in only 59 days. She went from Hell's Gate, Manhattan to San Francisco. Now, my personal first road trip, that I got to go on, I think it was in like 1979 or 1980. I was 17 years old, took my mom's white Buick Century, had permission, left early morning on a Saturday and drove from Cincinnati to Wapakoneta, Ohio for a youth convention, a youth meeting. And that was like big deal. I was only 17 and I drove like 3 hours up the highway in Ohio. Back then we didn't have no GPS or anything. You had to write down directions how to get places. And when you got lost, you actually had to get out of your car and talk to someone, figure out how to get there. And I was 17. I wasn't that damn smart, let me tell you. It took forever to get there. But I went by myself, and that was my very first road trip. And I loved it. I had so much fun. It was like exploring and seeing things. Now, Wapakoneta, Ohio is also a very famous town. Very small town, not many people there. It's actually the home to Neil Armstrong. And if you know your history, Neil Armstrong was the first man on the moon, to step foot on the moon. And that's his hometown, is Wapakoneta, Ohio. But the road trip we're going to go on, we're going to go from Fort Lauderdale on the east coast of Florida. We're going to the west coast of Florida to Fort Myers. Because my sister flew into Fort Myers to see her son, my nephew. And I'm going to go see him and spend some time with him. But I'm going to drive and take my time because I don't have any deadline. I'm going to go up, I think, 27. I'm not going to take the Alligator Highway because there's no towns in between. So I'm going to go up 27 to the lake. And there's a little town, oh, what's the name? Something Belle Glade. And if you remember, I did the show back in October about the Muck Bowl. This is the competing town. So I want to go to Belle Glade and see what the hell's going on there. And then you can go just south of Lake Okeechobee. And there's Clewiston. Don't know anything about it. That's why I love road trips. It's like exploring and an adventure, and you learn so much. Going to go there. And then I don't know where else I'm going to go. But I'm excited. Come on, we got to go. Hey, everyone. Get in the car. It's time to go. And I'll be at my first stop as soon as you listen to my sponsor. Also, please remember to follow, like, and subscribe. Be right back. Hi, everyone. I am in my favorite place. Because as soon as you walk in, the smell of this high-quality leather overtakes you. Yes, I'm at Leatherworks. My favorite place to shop. They have the highest quality of leather products in the Southeast. No, I'm not just talking about Southeast Florida. I'm talking about the entire Southeast of the United States. Their products are the highest quality leather, and a lot of them are made right here. And the great thing about Leatherworks is they do not discriminate against size. So even me, Daddy Bear, I can even find things that fit me here at Leatherworks. But it's not just leather, everyone. If you have a fetish, I guarantee you they have the fetish gear that you may want. Let's just say they have a lot of things to choose from. Go online to leatherworks.com, and that's works, W-E-R-K-S. And while you're there, you can check out, they have specialty classes. You know, if you have like a fetish you want to learn more about, you can go there and join the lifestyle program, because then you get discounts on in-store promotions. Hey everyone, make sure you go to Leatherworks. That's Works with W-E-R-K-S, and you can buy online. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trippin with Silver Daddy. Oh my gosh, I'm in the theater. Can you believe this? My first time. I can actually be up on stage because there's no one here. I am in Belle Glade. If you don't know about Belle Glade, you're going to learn something, because this city is really cool. I am in what we call the subtropical Everglades, and this is the largest city in here. The subtropical Everglades of Florida is about 2,800,000 acres of land. Now, this city was originally called Hillsborough, which is kind of interesting because where I'm from in Ohio, there's a Hillsborough real close to where I was. It became incorporated in 1828, and there was less than 500 people that lived here. The original area was the home to the Calusa Native Americans. And these were like very early Native Americans. And there's a burial mound outside of the city, which I would love to go see, called The Chosen. Most of the locals just call it the Indian Mounds. In the 1930s, the Smithsonian actually did a lot of research on these mounds. So they're famous because these Native Americans are very old. Then in 1912, they started to work on construction of 3 canals on Lake Okeechobee. The canals were the Miami Canal, the New River Canal, and the Hillsborough Canal, because there was a lot of flooding going on in the area. So they were trying to control the flooding. This canal system and all this work that was taking place actually caused a lot of new settlements where the workers were coming, because the only way you really could get here was by boat. So in September of 1928, this area was hit by a massive hurricane, one of the worst in U.S. history. Let me just tell you, they said that in a 1-hour period during this hurricane, the lake waters of Okeechobee rose 6 to 8 feet in 1 hour. 1 hour. And in some points, it was estimated that the lake rose 25 feet above sea level. It was so huge that they estimated over 2,500 people died during this hurricane of 1928. Hurricanes way back then, they didn't give them names. They just say the hurricane of that year. So what happened after this hurricane, President Hoover visited the area, and they built this big dike called the Hoover Dike. And it was supposed to control a lot of the waters for any type of future hurricanes. And it actually has helped a lot. But what this area probably is most known for is its soil. And we're talking about very, very rich, fertile soil. And that soil is worth a lot of money. So back in the days, back in the 1930s, this area's cash crop was green beans. They used to raise so many green beans in this area. In 1945, they actually brought German prisoners of war to this area just to work in the green bean factories. If they didn't work in the green bean factories, they were working in the sugar cane that was being planted in the area. So yeah, a lot of people probably don't know the history that actually prisoners of war from World War II in Germany was brought into Central Florida. But after the green beans and that, they discovered there was a few other crops that were really good. Some of those crops are still cash crops today. This is one of the leading places where celery is produced, and lettuce, sweet corn. I mean, I'm from Indiana. We have Indiana sweet corn, but there's Florida sweet corn. And now sugar. Sugar cane is a huge cash crop in this part of Florida. But what I kind of found interesting, because I forgot all about this, you know, a lot of that soil, they call it muck. Well, if you listen to my podcast, I think it was way back in October or so, I did a podcast from a neighboring town called Pahokee. And we talked about a muck bowl, this big football game. Because, you know, Pahokee has a lot of NFL players. But this city also has NFL players. This is the city that Pahokee plays the muck bowl against. Wow, how things all tie together. But this place is famous for a lot of things. There's a famous author, Zora Neale Hurston, who actually wrote her novel here in this city. The novel was Their Eyes Were Watching God. Had to look that one up. Their Eyes Were Watching God. She wrote that while she was in this city. But what is so cool about this city is where I'm standing. This is the Dolly Hand Cultural Art Center. And what I love about it is they have a beautiful, beautiful theater. As they're getting ready for a new production, they actually bring in national acts to this small town. Do you know how important it is to have theater in communities and let everyone be exposed to it? That tells you something about the city when they believe that much in theater. This theater holds 468 people, state of the art, and that kind of tells you what the town's really about. You know, I'm on this road trip going up 27 and over 80 on my way over to Fort Myers to see my sister who flew in. And I'm just stopping at these small towns. And I am amazed. Let me tell you, if you're driving through Florida, you need to stop here at Belle Glade and check it out. Hey everyone, I gotta go to break. You're listening to Trippin' with Silver Daddy or watching me on YouTube. I'll be right back. Stop! Just like the sign says. I just thought of something. You know, if you're going on vacation and you need someone to watch your pet while you're gone because you don't want to put them in that, quote, pet spa or in that cage, I can help. Or if you have an elderly family member that you take care of and you need a fun-loving silver daddy there just to have fun with them and watch them while you're running errands or have to work, I can help. Or if you just got that job and you're moving from Miami to LA and you got like 2 cars in that U-Haul that you have to drive, I can help. Just send me an email to trippinwithsilverdaddy@gmail.com. Now, if you have to like clean those leaves out of the gutter, I can't help. Sorry. Just saying. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trippin' with Silver Daddy. If you were listening to the earlier segment, I talk about that Hoover dike that was built. Well, this is the dike. And I'm in the city of Clewiston. And this is the dike that was built along the south part of Lake Okeechobee after that terrible hurricane of 1928 that killed 2,500 people. So this is the dike that was built through the south part. And this here is the waters where the boat ramps that go into the lake. The lake is actually on the other side of those trees. You can see it if I was standing on top of the hill. But this area, Clewiston, is known as the sweetest city in USA. They call them the America's sweetest city. There's only about 8,000 people that live here on the south side of Lake Okeechobee. And this area was originally the Seminoles' fishing village. They did a lot of fishing from here. But in 1920, two guys, one out of Philly, his name was John O'Brien, and a guy from Tampa, Alonzo Clewis, they purchased a large segment of land. And they wanted to make a city here. And they did. And they actually made the city of Clewiston, and that actually became incorporated in 1925. They also started a railroad, which was the Haven-Clewiston Railroad, and they connected this area to the Atlantic Ocean rail line. They knew this was a really good place for fishing, and they wanted to start a sports fishing town. And it is great for fishing. It is known for its largemouth bass fishing. There's a lot of other fish here, crappie, bluegill, all that, but it's known for its largemouth bass. The actual largest largemouth bass caught on the lake was 15 pounds 5 inches, or 15 pounds 5 ounces, not inches, ounces. And the world's largest is like 25 pounds. See, there's something else in that water. Those alligators, they like largemouth bass too. So maybe that's why the largemouth bass aren't as big as the world's record. But it is so well known for fishing. Right up here, there's all kinds of boats that are actually coming into the water. And most of them are fishing boats. But this area is not just known for fishing. It's actually known for sugar plantations and the production of sugar. That's why it is the America's sweetest city. It is home to the U.S. sugar growers and the U.S. sugar plantations. They own a lot of land around here. They have actually facilities where they make the sugar here. But we talked about how fertile this land is on the south side of the lake. It's not just sugar. They have all kinds of other things. Citrus plants grow here, agricultural plants, vegetables. They do cattle. There's just many things. And this is kind of like, in Florida, our breadbasket, you know, where all this stuff, all this fruit, vegetables, cattle, and all that, this is where a lot of it comes from. It's a very important part of the state. Now, when I said they own so much land, the sugar plantations around here, back several years ago, in the late 2000s, maybe around 2008 or so, the Florida government actually bought back a lot of land from the U.S. Sugar Company Corporation, and they paid like $1.8 billion or somewhere $1.3 billion to purchase a bunch of land. And this land, they were going to lease it back to the sugar company for like 7 cycles, 7 crop cycles. I don't know how long a crop cycle is, but they did that and they were getting some money. Eventually that land was all converted to a reservoir just to prevent flooding. So we still worry about flooding in this area, and the government actually was taking some precautions to prevent this from happening. Now, what is famous in this city also, besides the fishing, is there's this inn called the Clewiston Inn, which is owned by the sugar plantation, and this inn is really old. It was built way back in like 1938. And they had to build this inn because they needed to have a place to bring a bunch of people in, dignitaries and that from other countries, to show off their sugar plantation. So they built this beautiful inn back then. But why it's so interesting, this inn is also haunted. Yes, there's 2 rooms in this inn that are known to be haunted. Room 255, that's where Anita, she died, a lady named Anita, and she is said to pull people's hair and do things to people and keep them locked out. So Anita haunts this room 255. And then room 118 is also haunted. There's a lady that keeps appearing in the window. How cool is that? I love this haunted stuff. Maybe if I have time, I should go check that out. Would it be cool to stay in room 255? We might have to put that on a future plan. Hey, I got a lot of things to do. We need to take a short break, and I'll be back from another location on this road trip. You're listening or watching to Trippin' with Silver Daddy. I'll be right back. Hey, every time I go out on location for Trippin' with Silver Daddy, I always have people who ask me, am I selling these tie-dyes? You know, I make them myself. Everyone is unique and different. And I think I'm getting ready just to do that. It would be a very limited edition, and I'm kind of seeing what you guys think. If you're interested in buying a limited handmade tie-dye from Silver Daddy, send me a message to trippinwithsilverdaddy@gmail.com. Remember, there's no G in Trippin'. So let me know if you're interested in tie-dye. Hey everyone, welcome back to Trippin' with Silver Daddy. Yes, I'm finally found her. I'm in LaBelle. No, LaBelle, Florida, everyone. One of these towns I never heard of until I got here. And it's some beautiful live oaks here located at the courthouse if you're watching me on YouTube. LaBelle, Florida started way back in the 1800s. Like anything, you know, some people got together, they bought a little plot of land, about 100, I think it was 400 acres of land, and they incorporated a town. The town incorporation all started back in this era, what they call the Hamilton-Disston plan. Hamilton-Disston, he was a guy from up north who decided he thought they should drain the swamp. Ever heard that before, haven't you? Drain the swamp? Yeah, I think I heard that in recent history. But he wanted to drain the swamp, and he wanted to use this land for agriculture. Now, I will tell you one thing. Driving here from my last city, the land has changed drastically. I am about halfway from the Lake Okeechobee to Fort Myers. And this city is located on a river. So that river, we'll try to do it, is Calusa, I think. But it's located on the river, and it's kind of like halfway between Fort Myers and Lake Okeechobee. But the land totally changed. It's not swampy. So this land here, very popular with trucks in this town too. This land here, they felt was right for cattle. So this is really, at one point, was the cattle capital of Florida. There's a lot of cowboys here and ranches. And that makes me very happy because I love meat. So this is very much a cattle area. Let's put it this way. Way back in the early, I guess, 1900s, there's a guy named Goodnow. He has 7,000 acres of land down here, wanted to develop it. Came into some hard times, so he got a loan from Henry Ford, one of his friends, you know, the Ford car company, Mustangs. Ford gave him this loan to help him out. Well, 2 years later, Ford went to his friend, said, hey, I really would like to take over and settle your debt. And he said, I'll give you $63,000 for the 7,000 acres of land. The guy agreed to do it, and he agreed with Ford to stay onto the property and manage it. And they brought cattle into here. They brought Pole Angus cattle, the Bronx cattle, and then they brought some goats. I think it was called Agoro goats. I'm not familiar with goats much. And they really started doing cattle farming down here, and they were some of the first. So a lot of other people saw how successful it was. You know, when someone like Ford's successful, everyone has to follow. So that's why this area really became very popular with the cattle industry. And there's a lot of land here and fresh water. So it was perfect. There's no snow. So you can have the cattle outside eating all year long. So it was a perfect location for the cattle industry at the time. Still known for cattle, but it's also known for a few other things. Very agricultural. A lot of citrus groves in this area. A lot of oranges, grapefruit, limes, lemons, all the citrus. This is known as like the citrus capital area too. So that's kind of what goes on here. But what's kind of funny, when I was reading everything that went on here, they're famous for the swamp cabbage festival they have every year. I'm like, swamp cabbage? I didn't know heads of cabbage grew out in the damn swamp. After you do some research, swamp cabbage isn't even actually cabbage. It's a palm tree. There's a cabbage palm, and they celebrate it. I'll tell you one thing, there's a lot of trucks in this town. So they actually have the Swamp Cabbage Festival here, big rodeo, you know, the parade, all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to tell you, it's a beautiful little town. When we say little, we mean little, because the square miles of the city is only 3.5 square miles. There's only about 4,500 people that live here. Do the math. That comes out to about 1,500 people per square mile. It's one of the most dense cities in Florida. And we're out here in the middle of the country. But the other kind of cool thing is, when you read the stats about the place, people 45 and over only make up 30% of the population. So that means 70% of the population is actually younger than 45. That makes this also one of a very young city. So I find that kind of cool. Now, if you're watching me on YouTube, here are some of the old live oaks growing around here, which I find very beautiful, and just the old courthouse. It has a very Spanish look. Hey everyone, I gotta take off. I need to get myself over to Fort Myers because I got family to see. We're gonna take a short break and I'll be back in a few minutes, or actually be back in about 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Hey everyone, you're listening or watching Trippin' with Silver Daddy. I'll be right back. Did you know if you live within 20 miles of the ocean, there is saltpeter in the air? Saltpeter is very bad for your car. It can cause rust and dull your paint. So you need to get your car washed at least once a week if you live within 20 miles of the ocean. That's why I go to Majestic Car Wash. My Blue Beauty, I only trust Majestic Car Wash. They're located at 2781 North Federal Highway. You know, you have your choice. Your car can go through the 40-foot long cleaning tunnel, or it can be hand washed. They also have a detail shop that can make your car look brand spanking new. So where do I take my Blue Beauty? To Majestic Car Wash. You need to go there today. Hey everyone, was today not a blast? I love road trips. I love road trips. Let me tell you, it's more fun not having anything planned out and just going and learning things. I love to learn new things. And the funny thing is, when I was in high school and that, I hated history. Now I'm finding history fascinating. Like when we were in, Belle Glade, I learned so much about the history of that place. Do you know, this place used to have these ancient Indian burial mounds, and it was called the Chosen. And in 1930, the Smithsonian came, dug them all up. Well, didn't dig them all up, but excavated them, did research. University of Florida came in too. They all did all this research and checking on it. But when they were done, afterwards, they just leveled these mounds. Leveled them to become part of a sugarcane field. I was pretty, devastated that back in the 1940s they would do stuff like this. And then to learn the history about the World War II POWs that worked there in the canning industry, I was kind of shocked. But the town itself was great. The theater, I loved the theater. And they were so cool. It's like they gave me the keys to the place. They let me do anything I want. They were turning lights on, doing all this stuff. It was so fun. Let me just ask everyone, if you have a high school around you and they have a theater department and they are putting on a play, please support high school students in theater. It's very important for them to work on their crafts. So, just saying, it's one of the things Daddy loves, and I hope you do too. Now we went on and we went to Clewiston. Oh my God, that haunted place. I want to stay in that room, but I don't think I'd stay by myself. I'd be too scared. So if someone wants to go there and stay with me for the night, I'd be totally up to that. Just send me a photo. Just kidding. But that was really cool. And then LaBelle was a really neat city. A lot of traffic in that city, though. And then I got to go see my sister and my nephew and spend the afternoon with them. I had a great time. I can't wait to go on another road trip. I think road trips need to be something that everyone should do once a month. Get in your car, go somewhere you've never been, learn some history, eat some good food, and document where you've been. Hey everyone, that's this week's show. But before I go, I have some final thoughts for you. Hey everyone, before I close out this episode, you know how I normally always close saying, hey, love, peace, and respect? Before I get to that point, I have a few things I would like to talk to you about. Yes, I do mean you. You. And that is how much I appreciate you. And I want to thank you for either listening to or watching Trippin' with Silver Daddy. It does mean a lot to me. I also need your help because as a Silver Daddy, I'm not really into the social media stuff like people who are much younger than I am. I need your help in getting me more followers, subscribers, and likes. So that's the one thing you could do is make sure you always subscribe, follow, and like all my stuff on social media. Then copy and paste my shows or anything and send it to your friends and say, hey, go check out Silver Daddy. I would deeply appreciate all that. And also, there's a lot of people I need to thank on a regular basis. And also, I want to share with you some of the information from today's show. And maybe about the places or the people I've talked to, or just things that I think you should know. So in doing all that, I need to roll some credits. And one of those credits is going to be how you can help me too. Because if you are able to make a small donation to the show, it would really help. Let me just tell you, to produce one show, just to produce one show, it would take about 25 people to donate $10. That's what it would take to actually, for me to go someplace, produce a show, and get stuff ready. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roll some credits to share some information with you. Now, for me to roll the credits, that means I need to actually leave and roll the credits. I can't roll the credits because I don't know how else to do it. I'll be right back. I will. Hey everyone, I'm back. I told you I'd be back. Thanks for watching the credits, and we are officially ending this podcast and this episode. As I always say, love, peace, and respect. You've been watching or listening to Trippin' with Silver Daddy. Bye.